So let's start today, Oyster, on the today's 26th, right?
27th.
Today's 27th. Portals into unmanifested. Wonderful. Very good chapter. Start, Aditi.
Yes, going deeply into the body. I can feel the energy inside my body, especially in my arms and legs. But I don't seem to be able to go more deeply as you suggested earlier. Make it into meditation. It needn't take long. 10 to 15 minutes of clock time should be sufficient. Make sure first that there are no external distractions, such as telephones or people who are likely to interrupt you. Sit on a chair, but don't lean back. Keep the spine erect. Doing so will help you to stay alert. Alternatively, choose your own favorite position for meditation. Make sure the body is relaxed. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. Feel yourself breathing into the lower abdomen as it were. Observe how it expands and contracts slightly with each in and out breath. Then become aware of entire energy field of the body. Don't think about it. Feel it. By doing this, you reclaim consciousness from the mind. If you find it helpful, use a light use a light visualization as I described earlier. I'm so sorry for the disturbance. When you can feel the inner body clearly as a single field of energy, let go. If possible, of any visual image or focus exclusively on the feeling. I'll repeat. When you feel the inner body clearly as a single field of energy, let go. If possible, let go of any visual image and focus exclusively on the feeling. If you can also drop any mental image you may still have of the physical body. All that is left then is an all encompassing sense of presence or beingness, and the inner body is felt to be without a boundary. Then take your attention even more deeply into the feeling. Become one with it, merge with the energy field, so that there is no longer a perceived duality of observer and the observed, of you and your body. The distinction between inner and outer also dissolves now, so there is no inner body anymore. By going deeply into the body, you have transcended the body. Stay in this realm of pure being for as long as it feels comfortable. Then become aware again of the physical body, your breathing, and physical senses. And open your eyes. Look at your surroundings for a few minutes in a meditative way. That is, without labeling them mentally, and continue to feel the inner body as you do so. Having access to that formless realm is truly liberating. It frees you from bondage to form and identification with form. It is life in its undifferentiated state prior to its fragmentation into multiplicity. We may call it unmanifested, the invisible source of all things, the being within all beings. It is a realm of deep stillness and peace, but also of joy and intense aliveness. Whenever you are present, you become transparent to some extent to the light, the pure consciousness that emanates from this source. You also realize that the light is not separate from who you are, but constitutes your very essence.
We will stop. Hmm. How many of us are able to relate to our formless existence. Transcending the bodily preoccupation. When I use the word body, let us clearly remember now that the mind is included in the body. And when we talk about transcendence, we talk about rising above the bodily preoccupations. That means feeling if we have any fathomable existence of ours beyond the so-called material domain. I want to repeat, the body and mind being the same, it has now been proved that even thoughts have particles, recognized in the laboratory. Thoughts have particles. So it is not nothing, it is something. Thoughts also have superfine materials. The molecular and atomic realities. But transcendence is beyond. How many of us are able to create a setu between two words, between two uh, ideas? One, transcendental consciousness. Two, formlessness. I do not know whether that's the right use of a word or not. The formless entity. It's not an entity again. How can it be entity when it doesn't have a form? So can we create a setu between transcendental consciousness and formless perspective about our reality? And that's where Eckhart is trying to draw us in this chapter. It's a very, very abstract and subtle chapter, but extremely enlightening once we are able to step into it or enter the domain. Over to you guys for reflection. Okay, let's read. Next. Someone else may please take over.
The source of Chi is the unmanifested, what in the East is called Chi, a kind of universal life energy? No, it isn't. The unmanifested is the source of Chi. Chi is the inner energy field of your body. It is the bridge between the outer you and the source. It lies halfway between the manifested, the world of form, and the unmanifested. Chi can be likened to a river or an energy stream. If you take the focus of your consciousness deeply into the inner body, you are tracing the course of this river back to its source. Chi is movement. The unmanifested is stillness. When you reach a point of absolute stillness, which is nevertheless vibrant with life, you have gone beyond the inner body and beyond Chi to the source itself, the unmanifested. Chi is the link between the unmanifested and the physical universe. So if you take your attention deeply into the inner body, you may reach this point, this singularity, where the world dissolves into the unmanifested and the unmanifested takes on form as the energy stream of Chi, which then becomes the world. This is the point of birth and death. When your consciousness is directed outward, mind and world arise. When it is directed inward, it realizes its own source and returns home into the unmanifested. Then, when your consciousness comes back to the manifested world, you reassume the form identity that you temporarily relinquished. You have a name, a past, a life situation, a future. But in one essential respect, you are not the same person you were before. You will have glimpsed a reality within yourself that is not of this world, although it isn't separate from it, just as it isn't separate from you. आगे पढ़ना है आशिक या दोबारा से पढ़ना है?
दोबारा पढ़िए.
The source of Chi is the unmanifested, what in the East is called Chi, a kind of universal life energy? No, it isn't. The unmanifested is the source of Chi. Chi is the inner energy field of your body. It is the bridge between the outer you and the source. It lies halfway between the manifested, the world of form, and the unmanifested. Chi can be likened to a river or an energy stream. If you take the focus of your consciousness deeply into the inner body, you are tracing the course of this river back to its source. Chi is movement. The unmanifested is stillness. When you reach a point of absolute stillness, which is nevertheless vibrant with life, you have gone beyond the inner body and beyond Chi to the source itself, the unmanifested. Chi is the link between the unmanifested and the physical universe. औषध आगे पढ़ना है?
हाँ जी, it's so beautiful. पढ़िए.
So if you take your attention deeply into the inner body, you may reach this point, this singularity, where the world dissolves into the unmanifested, and the unmanifested takes on form as the energy stream of chi, which then becomes the world. This is the point of birth and death. ये मैं दोबारा पढ़ती हूँ आशित. So if you take your attention deeply into the inner body, you may reach this point, this singularity, where the world dissolves into the unmanifested, and the unmanifested takes on form as energy stream of chi, which then becomes the world.
Very
This is
deep.
the point, very deep, Ashit.
Very,
इसको
very
बार
deep.
बार पढ़ना पड़ेगा. This is the point of birth and death.
फिर से पढ़िए.
So if you take your attention deeply into the inner body, you may reach this point, this singularity, where the world dissolves into the unmanifested, and the unmanifested takes on form as the energy stream of chi, okay, which then becomes the world. औषित यहाँ पे हम material world में आ गए वापस.
हाँ जी.
This is the point of birth and death. When your consciousness is directed outward, mind and world arise. When it is directed inward, it realizes its own source and returns home into the unmanifested. Then, when your consciousness comes back to the manifested world, you reassume the form identity that you temporarily relinquished. You have a name, a past, a life situation, a future. But in one essential respect, you are not the same person you were before. You have glimpsed a reality within yourself that is not of this world, although it isn't separate from it, just as it isn't separate from you. Now let your spiritual practice be this. As you go about your life, don't give 100% of your attention to the external world and to your mind. Keep some within. I have spoken about this already. Feel the inner body even when engaged in everyday activities, especially when engaged in relationships or when you are relating with nature. Feel the stillness deep inside it. Keep the portal open. It is quite possible to be conscious of the unmanifested throughout your life. You feel it as a deep sense of peace somewhere in the background, a stillness that never leaves you, no matter what happens out here. You become a bridge between the unmanifested and the manifested, between God and the world. This is the state of connectedness with the source that we call enlightenment. Don't get the impression that the unmanifested is separate from the manifested. How could it be? It is the life within every form, the inner essence of all that exists. It pervades the world. Let me explain.
We'll not read anymore. Come back. Now, ये देखिए, ये इधर हम 5 है, 5 एक है क्या? नहीं. एक है क्या? हाँ जी. Both are true. पर सरफेस में क्या है? We are 5. हकीकत में क्या है? We are 1. सरफेस में क्यों है? क्यों है we are 5? हम शरीर और मन है, इसलिए हमारा पूरा संदर्भ शरीर और मन को लेकर के है, और कोई संदर्भ है नहीं। हम जानते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, सीखते हैं, अपने आप को समझाते रहते हैं, एक टोले कह रहा है ठीक ही कह रहा होगा, हमें डायरेक्ट रियलिटी नहीं है। इसीलिए हम 5 है, हम 9 है, 9 मिलकर के जा रहे हैं सिनर्जी करने, एहसास करने की हम एक है। हमारा 5 का जो ठिकाना है, एड्रेस है, अलग अलग है। हमारा एड्रेस अलग, आपका एड्रेस अलग। 5 घर में रहते हैं। कौन रहता है? हमारा शरीर और मन। हम नहीं रहते। एक बार के लिए उसको सेपरेट कर दें तो जब तक हम फॉर्म में फंसे हैं मतलब हमारा मन फॉर्म में फंसा दिया है, हमें लपेट दिया है चारों तरफ, रस्सी से बांध दिया है, तू फॉर्म 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 है। उस लपेट में हम आ गए हैं और हम समझाते रहते हैं कि नहीं, ये रस्सी फिक्टिशियस है, ये अलग अलग घर एक ड्रामाबाजी है, दुनियादारी है, एक नाटक है। हर रिलेशनशिप एक ड्रामा है जो हम ऑडिटोरियम में बैठ करके देखते हैं। हीरो हीरोइन का नाटक 3 घंटा बाद खत्म हो जाते हैं, थोड़ा सा रुमाल निकाल के आंसू पोंछते हैं, फिर घर आते हैं, भूल जाते हैं। उधर लगता है ये हकीकत है, शाहरुख खान ऐसा कैसे कर सकता है। रोते रहते हैं हम। क्या दर्द है भाई, क्या पेन है, क्या सफरिंग है। वो नाटक है। उस मोमेंट में हम भूल गए थे, इसलिए हम रो रहे थे, उसका दर्द हमारा हो गया था। जब ऑडिटोरियम के बाहर आ जाते हैं तब पता चलता है कि हम जाग गए हैं, उस टाइम भूल गए थे, हम सो रहे थे, नाटक के अंदर में घुस गए थे। उसी तरह से इस दुनिया के नाटक में हम घुसे हैं और हमारा मन लपेट करके ये सब ड्रामाबाजी बना के उस ड्रामा को सही करके हमारे अंदर में गाड़ दिया है और हम उसके बाहर सोच ही नहीं पाते। इसको इल्यूशन कहते हैं, इसको डिल्यूशन कहते हैं। इल्यूशन तो हम लोग हैं ऑयस्टर में, कि हम इसको पढ़ रहे हैं, कि इसको पढ़ रहे हैं, और बाकी लोग डिल्यूटेड है, इग्नोरेंस में पीएचडी प्राप्त कर चुके हैं उन लोग। हम इग्नोरेंस के ग्रेजुएट है। वो पॉइंट ऑफ नो रिटर्न में है। विमूढ़ा नानु पश्यन्ति। विमूढ़, मूढ़ और ब्रिमूढ़, दोनों में क्या अंतर है? दोनों ही बुद्धू है। मूढ़ा मतलब बुद्धू, विमूढ़ा मतलब बुद्धू। मूढ़ा अभी ग्रेजुएशन किया है, विमूढ़ा डॉक्टरेट कर लिया है इग्नोरेंस में। वो कभी सुधरेगा नहीं, उसको कोई समझा नहीं सकता। हमारे 9-10 के अंदर में अगर ऐसा कोई विमूढ़ होगा, वो घूम करके चला आएगा, सिनर्जी घुसेगा नहीं उसमें, उसके दिमाग में। असलियत क्या है? 2 चीज देखो, बहुत डीप, बहुत सुंदर, आगे बढ़ना नहीं है। फॉर्म वाला पर्सपेक्टिव और फॉर्मलेस वाला पर्सपेक्टिव। एक सफेद पन्ना दिमाग में बनाओ और बीच में एक लाइन खींचो। लेफ्ट के साइड में लिखो फॉर्म पर्सपेक्टिव, राइट के साइड में लिखो फॉर्मलेस पर्सपेक्टिव। लिखना नहीं, दिमाग में बनाना है। टेम्पोररी इमेजिनरी पेपर फोल्ड करो उसको बीच में। लेफ्ट साइड में लिखो फॉर्म रेड कलर में, और राइट साइड में लिखो फॉर्मलेस ब्लू कलर में। अब उसको भरते जाओ 1 2 3 करके। पूछता हूं, आप उसको डालो। प्लूरालिटी, प्लूरालिटी बहुवचन कहां डालोगे? लेफ्ट में या राइट में?
लेफ्ट में।
वननेस कहां डालोगे?
राइट में।
सिनर्जी कहां डालोगे?
राइट में।
डिविजन कहाँ डालोगे?
Left.
Left में.
सेपरेशन कहाँ डालोगे?
Left.
Left.
यूनियन कहाँ डालोगे?
Right.
लव कहाँ डालोगे?
Right.
ड्रामा कहाँ डालोगे?
Left.
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 क्लियर हो रही है चीज? इसको भरते जाओ, भरते जाओ, भरते जाओ, भरते जाओ। नेम कहाँ डालोगे? जल्दी बोलो।
क्या
Left.
चीज आशित?
नेम, नेम।
Left.
करेक्ट। नेम कहाँ डालोगे?
Name. NAME.
हाँ,
हाँ. Left में.
नेम लेफ्ट में डालोगे। फॉर्म कहाँ डालोगे?
Left में.
फॉर्म ही तो है। लेफ्ट तो फॉर्म ही है।
हम्म.
नेम, फॉर्म, सक्सेस कहाँ डालोगे?
Left.
Left में.
फुलफिलमेंट कहाँ डालोगे?
Right में.
Right.
अपरेंट कहाँ डालोगे?
Left में.
Left.
रियल कहाँ डालोगे?
Right.
Right.
Manifested and unmanifested.
एब्सोल्युटली राइट। अब ये जर्नी आप लोग एक चीज हमें बता दीजिए, छोटा सा हल्का करके, विस्परिंग करके मेरे कान में बता दीजिए, इस जर्नी से ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट इस जन्म में, बर्थ डेथ साइकिल में और क्या है? इससे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट, इससे बड़ा चीज प्राप्त करना क्या है इस जीवन में? कोई मायने रखता है? इनसिक्योरिटी कहां डालेंगे आप?
Left.
Left में.
फियर कहां डालेंगे आप?
Left.
Left.
पीस कहां डालेंगे आप?
Right.
Right में.
स्टिलनेस कहां डालेंगे आप?
Right.
आनंद कहां डालेंगे आप?
Right में.
Right.
सुख और दुख कहां डालेंगे आप?
Left में.
अब रही थर्ड, इसको करके ही हम फिर वीडियो में चले जाएंगे डिस्कस करके। एक है लेफ्ट और एक है राइट। अभी बैलेंस शीट में क्या होता है? डेबिट होता है, क्रेडिट होता है, नेट बैलेंस होता है। अभी थर्ड वाला कॉलम खोलो, नेट बैलेंस। बहुत मजेदार। देखिए मेटाफोरिकल हो रही है। लेफ्ट में डेबिट, राइट में क्रेडिट, लेफ्ट में रेड, राइट में ब्लू और ब्लैक, एकदम नेट ब्लैक, ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट। ये क्या है? दोनों को जोड़ना। अभी हम जोड़ेंगे नहीं, जोड़ नहीं पाएंगे। जोड़ना इमेजिनरी हो जाएगा, क्योंकि हमने तो डायरेक्ट रियलाइज किया नहीं। वी आर नॉट एनलाइटेड पीपल, वी आर ऑन द थ्रेशोल्ड। यू अंडरस्टैंड? व्हेन वी हैव अ direct access into the formless टच स्टोन है। गहरे से फील करिएगा। फॉर्मलेस इज टच स्टोन। एक बार आप फॉर्मलेस को छू लेना, आपके हाथ में टच स्टोन आ जाएगा। उसके बाद फॉर्म में जब वापस आएंगे, आज वाली पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं रहेगी। बहुत बड़ी बात कर रहा हूं। आज वाली जो शॉर्ट साइटेड पर्सपेक्टिव है, जो डिविजन है, जो लड़ाई है, जो झगड़ा है, नहीं, लाइफ ही पूरा चेंज हो जाएगा। आपके लाइफ की साइकिल ही चेंज हो जाएगी, आपकी पर्सपेक्टिव बदल जाएगी, आपकी दुनिया बदल जाएगा। उधर छू करके आने में, बच में लुका चुरी खेलते थे ना, जब उसको टच कर लिया कोई डर नहीं है। जब सेंटर को टच कर लिया ना, फ्री हो गया। ठीक है ना? जब उधर एक बार आपने टच कर लिया, उसके बाद इसी दुनिया में आएंगे, देन वी विल डिस्कवर द रियल मीनिंग। ये लीला क्यों है, ये ड्रामा क्यों है। तब होगा लाइफ की एक्चुअल पर्सपेक्टिव। पर्पस क्या है? अभी जो पर्पस है वो तो है पैसा, कामयाबी, हेल्थ, वेल्थ, और कुछ कर लूं, और कुछ पढ़ लूं, पैसा बढ़ जाएगा और आराम मिल जाएगा। This is all our perspective now, because we do not know the reality. We are lost in this elusive world and moving around day and night like a madman. Forgive me. Moment we know the reality, and then there will be no manifested world. Manifested world is a perception before you have accessed the unmanifested. Moment you touch the unmanifested, it becomes a samandar, which includes manifest and unmanifest. You become one. And then you will understand the meaning of real love. Then I will not hesitate telling Mona Lisa I love you in front of her husband. Now I hesitate. Then I will go to Connaught Place at the center and shout, I love you, I love you, I love Mona Lisa. Then I will have no problem because my love is cold, 0 temperature. फिर अभी लोग कहेंगे असित तो कैरेक्टरलेस है, सबको कहता है आई लव यू, सबको कहता है लव यू, कोई कैरेक्टर नहीं है इस बंदे का. You should live with one woman, man, and one man show, one woman show. ड्रामा, प्यार का ड्रामा. प्यार तो एक ही होता है. And then I will tell you, Mona Lisa, I love you with God's love. And she is enlightened, she will understand. And she is not enlightened, she will stop talking to me. एक गड़बड़ कर देगा मेरे परिवार में. समझ रहे हैं चीज को? टचस्टोन जिसको मिल गया उसको प्यार समझ में आया. कभी वन वॉइस ऑल्ड नहीं बनेगा, कभी नहीं बनेगा जब तक उस एक प्लग पॉइंट में सारे रस्सी नहीं डालेंगे. All the wiring has to be connected to the central plug. इसलिए मैं पागल की तरह चिल्ला रहा हूं, कब को इकट्ठा नहीं कर पा रहा हूं. ये बनता है तो वो नहीं बनता, वो बनता है तो ये नहीं बनता, हो ही नहीं रहा. और हम टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करना चाहते. करो नहीं तो मत करो, करो तो सेंट्रली लगाओ. 9% की एनर्जी जब सेंट्रली वननेस हो जाएगा तब तो रियल पर्पस निकलेगा. तभी तो हम समझेंगे इधर ही हमारा सब कुछ है. हमारी लाइफ की पूर्णता इधर ही है. इधर ही से रोटी रोजी आएगी, इधर ही से गुजारा होगा, इधर ही से एनलाइटनमेंट होगी, इधर ही से हमारी खुशी, शांति, परिवार, बच्चे, सब कुछ. अभी कंफ्यूजन है. इसको छोड़ के मैं उधर कैसे जाऊं, किस तरह से मैं सैक्रिफाइस करूं, समझ में नहीं आता. उस टाइम समझाने की जरूरत नहीं होगा, उस टाइम ऑटोमेटिकली होगा. देखो प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ के साथ रिलेट करके चीज को मैं आप तक पहुंचा रहा हूं. उधर तो किताब में लिखा है, व्यक्तिगत जीवन में क्या हो रहा है. अभी फॉर्म है, फॉर्मलेस है, पर असल में फॉर्म फॉर्मलेस की डिवीजन नहीं है. इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ पर्सपेक्टिव. When you access formless, then everything is formless. Then the rule of law is different. देखो इस दुनिया में के अंदर में एक छुपा हुआ दुनिया है, बहुत हेजी, इनविजिबल. मेरा कोटेशन पढ़ना जो मैंने दिया, there are so many worlds you created. My world is different, her world is different, my name is different. वो क्या है? लेफ्ट साइड. हम लेफ्ट साइड का वर्ल्ड बना चुके हैं, हजारों वर्ल्ड. उसको रूल कौन कर रहा है? हमारा ईगो. उसके असिस्टेंट क्या है? 2 असिस्टेंट है, राइट हैंड एंड लेफ्ट हैंड. सेल्फिशनेस एंड वो क्या कहते हैं, कंपटीशन. ये सब छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं उनके ईगो का. उससे ये रूल करा रहा है. दिमाग को छा गया है, इससे निकलने नहीं देती. मर जाएगा वो, जैसे आप निकलोगे वो मर जाएगा. डेथ किसी का नहीं होता है. क्रूसिफिकेशन क्या हुआ था? जीसस को हुआ था क्या? रियल बाइबल पढ़ो, समझ में आएगा. जीसस की क्रूसिफिकेशन नहीं हुई. दैट्स अ सिंबॉलिक नोमेनक्लेचर. ईगो का हुआ था. ईगो वाज क्रूसिफाइड एंड ही वाज लिबरेटेड. That's why they celebrate the cross as a very sacred entity. The ultimate goal of life is to crucify your ego and then get resurrected. You understand that word, Christian word? Resurrection. Jesus वापस आ गए थे, मरे ही नहीं तो वापस कैसे आएंगे? मरता तो वो है जिसका ईगो है। जो एनलाइटेंड होता है वो तो मरता नहीं है, वो तो ट्रांसफॉर्म हो जाता है, उसको दर्द नहीं होता। तो देखिए इतने बड़े बड़े हीरा, सोना, जेम्स हमारे सामने रखा हुआ है, उसकी मूल्य हम नहीं है, उस अमूल्य चीज का मूल्य नहीं है, अनमोल चीज की मूल्य नहीं है। हम छोटे छोटे फायदे लूटते रहते हैं दुनियादारी में। मेक सेंस?
ऐसे लगता है ये जो लाइन हमने ड्रॉ की थी ना,
हाँ,
वहां पे ईगो खड़ी रहती है। एंड इट हैज हैंड्स बोथ साइड्स, डिपेंड्स ऑन योर इंटेंशन। आप जिस इंटेंशन से प्रोबेबली स्टिलनेस में गए या आपने वन होने की तरफ जैसा भी इंटेंशन रखा, इट विल ईदर टेक यू और सेंड इट बैक। इट्स लाइक जैसा अभी एक हार्ट वाज सेइंग कि if you're directed externally, it will bring you back to the material world. If you're directed inwards, then it will take you towards oneness, towards the unmanifested. Arshit, you're muted.
so I didn't want to disturb you. Isn't it beautiful, Aditi? Isn't it serene, pure? Doesn't it feel that you are almost having a light of truth somewhere very close, very close? Don't you feel that? Someone is pulling you, come, come, and you are struggling, just like the anesthesia. Any one of you have experienced general anesthesia?
Yes.
And you remember what happens when you come out of the anesthesia? क्या
Exactly.
होता है? जैसे कि पानी के ऊपर से उठ रहे हैं, डूब रहे हैं, उठ रहे डूब रहे हैं, उठ रहे डूब रहे हैं।
Yeah.
जब पूरा आ जाते हैं तब लाइट मिलता है। There is a threshold. How many of you are in that state? कि आपको वो फीलिंग होने लगता है कि आगे जा रहा हूं, पीछे खींच रहा है, ईगो पीछे खींच रहा है और उधर वेट कर रहा है। गॉड इज वेटिंग, नॉट दैट नोमेनक्लेचर गॉड, not that interpreted God, God in the form of my mother nature, my power. She is pulling me, and ego is pulling. नहीं नहीं, मुझे मत मारो, मुझे मत मारो, मुझे जीना है, वापस आ जाओ। क्योंकि वो जैसे वो चला जाएगा, ईगो मर जाएगा, क्रूसीफाई हो जाएगा। How many of us can feel this pull, push and pull, push and pull, push and pull, push and pull? And accept yourself with that struggle, the noblest struggle that any material being of this world can think of. इससे ज्यादा noble struggle कुछ नहीं है। Just before enlightenment, just before enlightenment, it's the mezzanine floor. You know that you can go to the second floor now because you already left the first floor. वो कश्मकश होनी चाहिए, दैट्स द प्योरेस्ट कश्मकश ऑफ लाइफ। और बाकी कश्मकश नहीं, ये दुनियादारी की कश्मकश होगा कि नहीं होगा, कब होगा, मेरा बिल्डिंग पूरा कब होगा। मेरा 2 मिनट की टाइम कब मिलेगा, ये कश्मकश।
उससे पहले कुछ इसी कनेक्शन में कुछ मन में आया है, कहे परमिशन मिले तो कह सकता हूँ। हेलो,
सुनना चाहते हैं, बताइए।
अभी जो आपने अदिति ने और इस किताब में पढ़ा, उससे मेरे दिमाग में, तो मैं तो थोड़ा सा वीक स्टूडेंट हूँ, लास्ट बेंच वाला, थोड़ा देर से समझ में आता है। तो मेरी समझ में आया वो ये आया, किसी भी एक्शन को, किसी भी काम को जो आप लेफ्ट राइट लिखा बता रहे थे, तो तराजू तराजू जैसे होती है, तराजू हाथ में ले ली तो उसके दो लेफ्ट राइट के वो हो गए तराजू के। कोई किसी भी एक्शन को मैं उस तराजू पर रखूं, इससे क्या मुझे मिलेगा एक्शन से, और क्या मुझे नुकसान होगा, क्या प्रॉफिट होगा या क्या लॉस होगा। मान लो मैंने किसी पे गुस्सा किया, उस गुस्से से मेरा ज्यादा से ज्यादा ये होगा वो काम कर देगा, लेकिन दूसरी साइड में वो तो मेरा प्रॉफिट हो गया। दूसरी साइड में, दूसरे पल्ले में मेरा नुकसान क्या होगा कि वो छोड़ के चला जाएगा गुस्से के मारे, अपनी धर्मशाला में तो चल रहा हूँ, या और भी बहुत सारा मेरा अंदर ब्लड प्रेशर बढ़ेगा और सारा। इसको लेफ्ट राइट की तरह से इजी रखे हैं और फिर उस तराजू को देखे कि मुझे क्या मिला। जैसे अभी आपने क्या बताया था उसको, पूरा प्रॉफिट करने के बाद में नेट गेन क्या मिला, तो वो करें। तो लेफ्ट राइट की जो आप बता रहे थे, वो मुझे उस समय वो मेरे दिमाग में आ रहा था कि कोई भी एक्शन करने से पहले हम उसके क्या हमें प्रॉफिट है, इसका क्या गेन है, क्या लॉस है, उस काम को करें। तो मेरे ख्याल से जो बैलेंस हमारा है तराजू का, तो दोनों पल्ले बराबर आ जाएंगे, या हमें मालूम चल जाएगा कि इस प्रॉफिट के बदले में कितना बड़ा लॉस कर रहे हैं, या कितने बड़े लॉस के बदले में ये जरा सा प्रॉफिट मिल रहा है। ये थोड़ा सा लास्ट बेंच वाले स्टूडेंट को समझ में आया था।
पोस्टमार्टम की जगह प्री मॉर्टम कर रहे हैं पीयूष जी।
जी,
पोस्टमार्टम की जगह प्री मॉर्टम कर रहे हैं ना।
समझा नहीं।
पोस्टमार्टम करते हैं ना, पोस्टमार्टम।
पोस्टमार्टम और प्री मॉर्टम,
हाँ,
समझा, मुझे क्लियर नहीं हुआ।
आप जो आप कह रहे हैं वो ये कह रहे हैं कि प्री मॉर्टम कर लेना चाहिए कोई भी एक्शन से पहले,
या करने के बाद भी कर लेना चाहिए, इसे आगे नहीं करा जाए। करने के बाद भी सोच लेना चाहिए कि मैंने ये किया, इससे मुझे ये मिला और ये मैंने खो दिया, या ये पाने के लिए ये मैंने खो दिया, तो आगे वो एक्शन नहीं हो। आगे वो एक्शन करने से पहले एक मेटाफोर आ जाए, एक उदाहरण मिल जाए मेरे को कि मैंने क्या खो के क्या पाया था, आगे अब मैं इस काम को नहीं करूँ।
पीयूष, एक मिनट, मैं उस चीज के तलाश में हूं जो मिलने से ना प्रीमॉर्टम ना पोस्टमार्टम करने की जरूरत होगी। प्रीमॉर्टम पोस्टमार्टम विश्लेषण है, एनालिसिस। एनालिसिस, इसका कोई अंत नहीं है। ये जो आप करेंगे अपने बुद्धि से, अपने मन से करेंगे, और मन से जो भी चीज करेंगे उसमें कुछ ना कुछ, कहीं ना कहीं ईगो की जहर होगी, वो भी टेम्पोररी होगा। उसमें स्वार्थ निहित होगा ही, परमार्थ नहीं होगा, स्वार्थ ही होगा उसके अंदर में। मैं उस चीज को प्राप्त करना चाहता हूं जिसमें ये एनालिसिस करना ही ना पड़े, विश्लेषण करना ही ना पड़े। हर कदम में मैं सही करूं, ठीक करूं, ऑटोमेटिकली। विचार करके क्यों करूंगा? विचार तो एक मेंटल, मन का मामला है, मन का खेल है। किसी भी किस्म की विचार मन का खेल है। इधर वो बात नहीं हो रही है, इधर उससे आगे की बात हो रही है पीयूष। इधर चैतन्य की बात हो रही है, चैतन्य, मन की नहीं, चिंता की नहीं। चिंता से जो चीज की विश्लेषण होता है, अरे ये नुकसान हो गया, कैसे करूं आगे नुकसान ना हो, ये क्या हो रहा है? कैलकुलेशन, ट्रांजैक्शन। इधर ट्रांजैक्शन की बात नहीं हो रही है, ट्रांसेंडेंस की बात हो रही है, कैपिटल टी की। छोटा टी की बात नहीं हो रही है, बड़ी टी की बात हो रही है। जब इस मन की दायरा को आप क्रॉस कर जाएंगे, तब हर पल आपकी बातचीत, आपकी कम्युनिकेशन, आपके विचार, आपकी प्रेम उभरेगा। तो झगड़ा होगा ही नहीं किसी के साथ, कोई छोड़ के जाएगा ही नहीं। कितने दिन मरोगे डर डर के, मर मर के? जब तक सांस है तब तक ही मरते रहोगे। क्यों ना उससे ऊपर उठ जाओ तो और मरना ना पड़े और डरना ना पड़े। जिंदगी की जो रिवर है, वो बड़े मस्ती से नाचते 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 सागर की तरफ चले जाएं। उसकी बात हो रही है, तभी ऑयस्टर है। दुनियादारी की बात करने के लिए ठीक है, बाकी बहुत सारे प्रशिक्षण है, ट्रेनिंग कोर्सेज है, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी है, वो जाके बैलेंस शीट बना देगा आपका बढ़िया सा, ये है प्रॉफिट, ये है तेरा लॉस। करते जाओ, सारे जिंदगी बैलेंस शीट बनाता जाओ, बनेगा। इसीलिए कहा जाता है फर्स्ट ट्रूथ, उसको पहले कायम करो, उसके बाद एक्शन में। जो चीज मैं कर रहा हूं अभी, करने की लगन उठा रहा हूं, बेड़ा उठा रहा हूं, जाना है जाना है जाना है। सबसे पहले ट्रूथ में उंगली टच करो, सब रिकॉग्नाइज द ट्रूथ एंड टच दैट। उस प्लग पॉइंट में अपना तार को जोड़ो पहले, उसके बाद काम करेंगे, नहीं तो टाइम वेस्ट हो जाएगा। ऐसे मेरे लाइफ की टाइम पूरी वेस्ट होगी, नहीं तो मैं इधर क्यों बैठा हूं? वाई शुड यू रेस्पेक्ट मी? मेरा तो एक रोल है ना। व्हाट इज माई रोल? माई रोल इज टू कनेक्ट so that we become one. ये पीयूष का अलग घर नहीं, मेरा अलग घर नहीं, एक घर होगा, एक घर, जहां से हम लोग निकलेंगे। नहीं तो लेफ्ट की तरफ आ जाएंगे। इतने घर, अलग अलग घर से निकले तो नहीं होगा। सबसे पहले घर एक बनाओ, उधर से निकलो, देखो जबरदस्त नदी का धारा बनेगा। एनीवे, दिस इज लिटिल कॉम्प्लिकेटेड, मे बी थोड़ा जटिल हो सकता है, इसीलिए इसको इधर ही छोड़े। सर हर एक के लिए अपना रिफ्लेक्शंस के लिए छोड़े। किसी को कुछ कहना है बिफोर वी गो टू द वीडियो?
Shall I share?
श्योर।
No, you say
Is
that
it audible?
whatever you feel, the world is withholding.
Is it audible?
इट इज ऑडिबल, फुल साइज करो।
Okay, I'll do that.
I know you say that whatever you feel, the world is withholding from you. In my case, true love. You already have, and you just need to let it out. So I know you say that whatever you feel the world is withholding from you, you already have. You already have it, and you just need to let it out. In this person's case, it's true love. Do you have any more practical tips for doing this? I wrote about that in the New Earth, because there are many people who go around life saying or thinking that life is depriving them of something. In some cases it may be, yes, as the questioner says, true love. We'll have to see what that means. Or recognition. People don't appreciate me. Or care. Nobody really cares about me. Or I'm deprived of, say, wealth. I'm lacking, the world is withholding from me abundance. These are all beliefs that seem to find confirmation in external reality, because the person who has these beliefs says, well, it is a fact that life is withholding abundance from me because I have very little. Or it's a fact that life is withholding love from me. I haven't found anybody. Nobody loves me. Or it's a fact that life is not giving me any appreciation. Nobody appreciates me, and so on. So many people feel then there's something that's being withheld. And I wrote that what you believe is being withheld, you are in reality, you are withholding it from the world, because what you think the world should be giving you to make you happy, recognition, care, love, abundance, whatever it may be, is really something that is inseparable from the essence of who you are. It comes out of that. And so you have to discover that it's already inside you. What you think the world is not giving you, it is already in you, but you have to allow it to flow out into the world, and then that very quality comes back to you. Love, can you love that which is, the isness of life? Love is connected with to appreciate the being of any life form. Can you love on a daily basis? Do you love what is? Do you love, when you look at the sky, do you appreciate the beauty that you see in the sky? Do you appreciate the flower? Do you appreciate whatever it is that is around you, the fact that you're breathing? Do you appreciate a simple object that usually one takes for granted? Its silent presence. So are you giving out that appreciation of things, which is a form of love? And then you can notice there's an outflow of attention onto things, rather than somebody says, I'm not getting it. You can sense energy moving out. Nobody cares about me. Nobody calls me. Well, do you care about? Or do you call them? Well, not because you call them because as a means to an end. No, because you're truly interested in them, you're truly wanting to know You're giving them attention. How are you? Not as an empty question. Truly being able to listen to somebody, giving them attention, appreciation. Listen, which means an outflow of attention. So if you care for people around you or strangers, then you always get back what flows out. Life always reflects that back to you. Abundance, how do you get in touch with, and again I say, abundance is inseparable from your state of connectedness with being. That's where all abundance arises out of the the unmanifested one life. That's where abundance arises, the fullness of life, Jesus calls it. So can you appreciate the fullness of life and the abundance of life at every moment before life gives you things that in conventional terms would be called abundance? Abundance comes when you see the abundance of nature. You walk past a flower shop and see the abundance of beauty and the flower, all these flowering plants. You see, you don't even need to have a plant or a flower, even to appreciate as what you see as the infinite abundance of life, or you see the vegetables and the fruit in a store, the abundance of that, the abundance of the sun pouring out its abundance of energy continuously upon the planet. Can you feel that on your skin, how the sun pours out its abundance for millions of years, no end to it. And it's given, the very warmth in your body is derived from sun energy, because you eat plants and it's the energy that the plants have accumulated from the sun. And so you appreciate the incredible abundance of the sun, the abundance of rain that comes down from the sky, of the abundance of water. No matter where you are, you will find some abundance in one form or another. And you don't need to own anything to appreciate abundance, but respond to it and recognize it, so your attention moves there. The abundance of life forms, when you look around the street where all the people and the cars going past, life is producing billions of different life forms everywhere, as humans, as animals. Go into a forest or anywhere in nature and see the incredible abundance there. But of course, the essence of abundance is not multiplicity. When you see it in the outer world, abundance is many things, many beautiful things, all kinds of forms. But the essence of abundance isn't in the forms. The forms are a manifestation of abundance. But if you appreciate the manifestation of abundance outside of you, that puts you in touch with the source of abundance that is within you, as the fullness of life before life becomes a form of life. So by appreciating the manifestations of abundance around you, you get in touch with the feeling of abundance, which is the aliveness that is behind and within every life form. So the more you appreciate it, you can actually feel that. Go to a store where they sell fruit and vegetables and look at that for just a few seconds or half a minute, and really see how alive everything is and how so many beautiful things there, the vegetables and the fruit. And You can do the same in a shopping mall with other things, but let's keep it simple. And feel that the aliveness that's there, amazing. And at that moment you feel it in yourself, because you can only feel the aliveness that you see in the manifested, you can only feel that through your own, which is basically residing in the unmanifested. And you begin to feel alive, you respond to the world's aliveness. And that's abundance beginning to rise, the feeling of abundance. So you acknowledge that abundance is already in your life. You don't need to own anything to feel that. It's all around you. And that initiates the process of outflow, of recognition of abundance, and then you'll see that life brings things to you that confirm your innermost feeling of abundance. And things tend to come to you. They like to be acknowledged, strange as it may sound. They seek you. And it's no longer that you then need the external abundance to feel abundant. You feel abundant first. External abundance follows. It's no longer primary. It cannot, you just feel just as abundant as before. So for many years I lived below the poverty line in official terms, or not in third world terms, but in Western official terms, below the poverty line, and yet I didn't feel poor. I continued to feel the abundance of life. And I was surprised when I read in the paper a person who has that much less than this amount of money per year is below the poverty line. And I said, oh, I must be poor, that's strange. I knew there are many things I couldn't buy, but it didn't seem to matter. And I had this love, strange thing, for, let's talk about just this seemingly trivial thing, my means of transportation, and I still have that, a love for, it's almost as if it were alive. In my 20s, my means of transportation was a bicycle throughout my 20s. And so I felt some connection with that bicycle, and the strange habit which I still have, even now, once I parked the bicycle somewhere, chained it to a railing or whatever, I would walk away and still occasionally stop for a moment and look back at it. Why? I felt a connectedness, and I loved just its presence. That's the bike. And then when I was 30, somebody gave me an old car, and I had that again, when I appreciate just its being there, and I felt a connected, it's even a form of love, one could say, perhaps, but feeling an appreciation for it. And it's, again, whenever I parked the car, I would just walk a few steps and look back at it for a few seconds. And I still do the same now that I have a much better car. I still do it. What I did once with my bicycle, it's a strange thing. It's a sense, I have that with many things, that things actually have some life, even so-called inanimate things. And so you feel there's a fullness to life, and that whether it's a car or a bicycle didn't really matter. And now this questioner talks about true love, so he or she feels, I believe, that what the world is withholding from him is true love, which I presume means another human being in their life. And again, do you love other humans in your daily life? Are you able to look upon them, not with what is conventionally called love? That would be a little silly. You can't go around say to everybody, I love you, I love you. You can try, but it's not advisable. Most humans would not be comfortable with that. And you don't even have to say in your mind, I love you, because you can't force yourself to love. It's not like that. But are you able to give them, to appreciate their being when you look at them, to give them space to be, for example? Judgment and love obviously can't go together. So if you compulsively go around judging other humans, there can be no love. To use a slightly different term, the Buddhists have a term that's translated as loving kindness, which is quite nice. It's an outflow of loving kindness, metta. You have that loving kindness towards other humans, but that implies a spaciousness while you relate to them, perceive them, or interact with them. The loving kindness towards another human can only arise if there's some inner spaciousness in you, like here now. And from there you look upon that human with appreciation and loving kindness. And you can look through the ego in the other, because the moment you judge another, you get stuck in their ego and you strengthen your own ego. Looking through the ego or egoic behavior or whatever front the humans present to you, some role they play, and you immediately see that there's the role. You see it without naming it. You see the role and you don't react to it. You look through that in stillness. In stillness. You look through their roles, and there's something emerges that's underneath, that's more real. And sometimes the roles collapse or are relinquished temporarily by the other person, and there's a true interaction. But the important thing is, do you give out love as you move through life? And again, it's really all, when we talk about care, love, recognition, appreciation, abundance, but it all, when you go deep into those things which seem to be different things, when you name them, if you go deep to their source, you realize they're all really one. They're all manifestation of one underlying state, so to speak, and that is the unconditioned consciousness. They all arise out of that.
So, what you guys are feeling?
I could relate to it.
Even I was relating to it.
I had even named my car, but at the same time, I feel love towards so many people. But I realized that I can't go on to expressing it because you can't do it.
Am I one of them?
No, I've already expressed. So, yes, then I realized, okay, life is a drama. So there are certain boundaries that people have kept, but definitely, yes, I could very well relate to it.
Wonderful.
But definitely it gives me a connectedness towards almost everyone I meet. And I think that the same gets reciprocated also. People might not say it, but I receive a lot of love. It's abundant around me, it seems so.
I understand. I'm able to understand. I'm able to realize what you were saying, the truth in it, thankfully. Any other reflection? I am guided to guide you to do something for the next 10 minutes. If you permit, I would request Aditi to go back to the introduction of this book. I'm guided to guide you to read the introduction together. Remember, Eckhart Tolle started the book and he wrote about his experience of enlightenment. And this is very, very crucial in this moment. I'm pretty sure that will be the greatest coherence for each one of us. If you feel and if you are able to trust me, then can we do that?
Yes, Ashit, definitely.
I'm sharing my screen.
Okay. This is our coherence today. No, no, no. Go ahead. This is it. Anyone who would like to read this?
May I?
Yes, you to go ahead.
The origin of this book. I have little use for the past and rarely think about it. However, I would briefly like to tell you how I came to be a spiritual teacher and how this book came into existence. Until my 30th year, I lived in a state of almost continuous anxiety, interspersed with periods of suicidal depression. It feels now as if I am talking about some past lifetime or somebody else's life. One night, not long after my 29th birthday, I woke up in the early hours with a feeling of absolute dread. I had woken up with such a feeling many times before, but this time it was more intense than it had ever been. The silence of the night, the vague outlines of the furniture in the dark room, the distant noise of a passing train, everything felt so alien, so hostile, and so utterly meaningless that it created in me a deep loathing of the world. The most loathsome things of all, the most loathsome thing of all, however, was my own existence. What was the point in continuing to live with this burden of misery? Why carry on with this continuous struggle? I could feel that a deep longing for annihilation, for non existence, was now becoming much stronger than the instinctive desire to continue to live. I cannot live with myself any longer. This was a thought that kept repeating itself in my mind. Then suddenly I became aware of what a peculiar thought it was. Am I one or two? If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. And the I and the self that I cannot live with. Maybe, I thought, only one of them is real.
Ah,
I,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was so stunned by this strange realization that my mind stopped. I was fully conscious, but there were no more thoughts. Then I felt drawn into what seemed like a vortex of energy. It was a slow movement at first and then accelerated. I was gripped by an intense fear and my body started to shake. I heard the words, resist nothing, as if spoken inside my chest. I could feel myself being sucked into a void. It felt as if the void was inside myself rather than outside. Suddenly, there was no more fear, and I let myself fall into that void. I have no recollection of what happened after that. I was awakened by the chirping of a bird outside the window. I had never heard such a sound before. My eyes were still closed, and I saw the image of a precious diamond. Yes, if a diamond could make a sound, this is what it would be like. I opened my eyes. The first light of dawn was filtering through the curtains. Without any thought, I felt, I knew that there's infinitely more to light than we realize. That soft luminosity filtering through the curtains was love itself. Tears came into my eyes. I got up and walked around the room. I recognized the room, and yet I knew that I had never truly seen it before. Everything was fresh and pristine, as if it had just come into existence. I picked up the things, a pencil, an empty bottle, marveling at the beauty and aliveness of it all. That day, I walked around the city in utter amazement at the miracle of life on earth, as if I had just been born into this world. For the next 5 months, I lived in a state of uninterrupted deep peace and bliss. After that, it diminished somewhat in intensity, or perhaps it just seemed to because it became my natural state. I could still function in the world, although I realized that nothing I ever did could possibly add anything to what I already had. I knew, of course, that something profoundly significant had happened to me, but I didn't understand it at all. It wasn't until several years later, after I had read spiritual texts and spent time with spiritual leaders, that I realized that what everybody was looking for had already happened to me. I understood that the intense pressure of suffering that night must have forced my consciousness to withdraw from its identification with the unhappy and deeply fearful self, which is ultimately a fiction of the mind. This withdrawal must have been so complete that this false, suffering self immediately must have been. This withdrawal must have been so complete that this false, suffering self immediately collapsed, just as if a plug had been pulled out of an inflatable toy. What was left then was my true nature as the ever present I am. Consciousness in its pure state prior to identification with form. Later, I also learned to go into that inner timeless and deathless realm that I had originally perceived as a void and remained fully conscious. I dwelt in states of such indescribable bliss and sacredness that even the original experience I just described pales in comparison. A time came when, for a while, I was left with nothing on the physical plane. I had no relationships, no job, no home, no socially defined identity. I spent almost 2 years sitting on park benches in a state of the most intense joy. But even the most beautiful experiences come and go. Most fundamental, More fundamental, perhaps, than any experience is the undercurrent of peace that has never left me since then. Sometimes it is very strong, almost palpable, and others can feel it too. At other times, it is somewhere in the background, like a distant melody. Later, people would occasionally come up to me and say, I want what you have. Can you give it to me or show me how to get it? And I would say, you have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise. That answer later grew into the book that you are holding in your hands. Before I knew it, I had an external identity again. I had become a spiritual teacher.
Stop. Get back. The work is done for today. Was I guided to guide you properly for reading this introduction?
We should do this often, Ashit. This is so beautiful.
All right. So for me, it was a great session.
Gee,
For us too.
yeah.
Wonderful. So we bid goodbye for the day.
Gee, Ashit.